How to Fail at Almost Everything and Still Win Big, by Scott Adams. Introduction. Imagine this. You're standing backstage, heart pounding so hard you can feel it in your shoes. The air is thick with anticipation. In a few moments, you'll walk into the blinding glare of stage lights, in front of 1,000 people who have come to see you. But you have a secret. A terrifying secret. You're not sure if you can speak. For months, your voice has been failing you. In conversations, your vocal cords clench involuntarily, turning your words into a series of broken, clipped syllables. Doctors have no answers. They think you might be crazy. You can speak normally when you're alone, or when you're talking to your cat, but with other humans. Silence and struggle. And now, you've agreed to give a 1-hour speech. The organizers backstage are looking at you with panic in their eyes. They tried to make small talk, but they couldn't understand a word you were trying to say. The host on stage raises his voice. Please welcome Scott Adams. The crowd goes wild. You walk out, take a deep breath, and open your mouth, wondering, along with everyone else, what's about to come out. What kind of person puts himself in a position to be humiliated in front of 1,000 people? As it turns out, the kind of person who has discovered a secret. A secret about the nature of failure itself. He's the creator of Dilbert, one of the most famous comic strips in history, and his name is Scott Adams. He's a man who has failed at more things than almost anyone you could imagine, from inventions to restaurants to his corporate career. And yet, he won. Dig. Today, we're going to uncover his story, and the profound lesson hidden within it. By the end of our time together, you will understand a powerful, counterintuitive truth, that the secret to winning isn't avoiding failure, but learning how to invite it, survive it, and as he puts it, mug the shit out of it. You'll learn why the advice to follow your passion might be the worst advice you ever get, and why setting goals is a strategy for losers. Most importantly, you will learn a new way to look at your own life, a system for turning every stumble, every setback, and every failure into a stepping stone for your own spectacular success. Book summary. So, let's begin with one of the most common pieces of advice you'll ever hear. It's repeated at every graduation ceremony, in every motivational book. You know the one, follow your passion. It sounds so right, doesn't it? Passion gives you energy. Passion helps you persevere through tough times. But Scott Adams learned a very different lesson early in his career, when he was working as a loan officer at a big bank. His boss, a man with 30 years of experience, told him something he never forgot: never make a loan to someone who is following their passion. Don't give money to the sports enthusiast starting a sports store, or the foodie opening a restaurant because they love to cook. Why? Because they're in it for the wrong reason. The best person to bet on, his boss said, is the person who has no passion for the business at all, just a desire to work hard at something that looks good on a spreadsheet. The grinder. Not the dreamer. This seems completely backward, until you start to look closer. Adams argues that passion is bullshit. Think about it. When are you most passionate? Is it when you're starting something new and exciting, or is it when that thing starts to work? For most of us, success causes passion, not the other way around. When Adams started drawing the Dilbert comic strip, it wasn't some grand passion project, it was just one of a dozen get-rich-quick schemes he was trying. But as it started to gain a little bit of traction, as it started to look like it might actually succeed, his passion for cartooning exploded. The projects that failed, on the other hand, slowly drained his passion until there was nothing left. So if passion isn't the key, what is? This brings us to the central, most powerful idea in this entire book. It's a concept that will change the way you approach everything you do, from your schoolwork to your hobbies to your future career. And it's this: Goals are for losers. Systems are for winners. Let me explain. A goal is a specific objective you either achieve or you don't. I want to lose 10 pounds. I want to get an A on my next exam. I want to become a famous cartoonist. A system, on the other hand, is something you do on a regular basis that increases your odds of happiness and success in the long run. A system is a process. Consider someone whose goal is to lose 10 pounds. From the moment they set that goal until the moment they achieve it, if they ever do, they exist in a state of constant failure. Every time they step on the scale, they are reminded that they are not there yet. It's a draining, discouraging feeling. And what happens if they finally reach their goal? They celebrate for a moment, and then, what? They've lost the very thing that was giving them direction. So they either feel empty, or they have to set a new goal and re-enter the cycle of feeling like a failure in progress. Now, contrast that with a person who has a system of eating right every day. This person succeeds every single time they apply their system. They feel good every time they make a healthy choice. They're not fighting a feeling of discouragement. They're building a foundation of small, daily wins. The goal-oriented person is chasing a future moment of satisfaction. The systems-oriented person is building a better present, day by day. Adams learned this lesson on his very first flight to California, right after college. He was seated next to the CEO of a company that made screws. The CEO gave him a piece of career advice he never forgot. He said that every time he got a new job, he immediately started looking for a better one. His job wasn't his job. His job was to find a better job. That was his system. He didn't have a specific goal, like become a vice president by age 30. He had a system of continually looking for better options, gaining new skills, and job hopping his way up the ladder until he became a CEO. It opened up a world of possibilities that a narrow goal would have closed off. This is the philosophy that guided Adams through his own bizarre and failure-ridden career. He didn't have a grand, passionate goal to become a cartoonist from day one. In his diary after college, he wrote down his system. He would create things that were easy to reproduce in unlimited quantities. He didn't want to sell his time, because that has a natural limit. He wanted to create something, a book, an invention, a comic, that he could make once and sell 1,000,000 times. This system practically guaranteed a string of failures. And fail he did. Spectacularly. He tried to invent a Velcro rosin bag for tennis players. Failure. He wrote a meditation guide. It sold about 3 copies. He spent years of his life creating computer games that went nowhere. He started a website for crackpot ideas that was so full of garbage it had to be shut down. He invested in a grocery home delivery company called Webvan and lost a boatload of money. He and a partner opened 2 restaurants. Both eventually went out of business after a series of legal problems and bad luck. To a goal-oriented person, this would have been crushing. It would have felt like banging his head against a wall. But Adams was system-oriented. With every failure, he wasn't just failing, he was acquiring a new skill. And this leads to the second pillar of his philosophy. Every skill you acquire doubles your odds of success. This isn't a precise mathematical formula, of course. It's a way of thinking. But it's incredibly powerful. He argues that you're better off being merely good at 2 complementary skills than being excellent at one. He is the perfect example. He admits he's not a world-class artist. His drawings are famously simple. He's not the funniest person in most rooms. His writing is good, but not legendary. But he combined these mediocre skills with something most artists don't have: 16 years of experience in the corporate world and an MBA from Berkeley. His bad art, plus his decent writing, plus his deep knowledge of the absurdities of office life. That combination was explosive. That was the magic formula for Dilbert. His failed corporate career wasn't a failure at all. It was his education. He learned about budgeting, management, technology, and marketing, all skills that became essential when he had to navigate Dilbert from a small comic strip into a global brand. This is the beauty of a system. When you're goal-oriented, you see failure as the end. When you're system-oriented, you see failure as the raw material for success. You see it as acquiring a new skill that doubles your odds for the next attempt. Failure becomes your friend. So, if your system is to constantly learn and try new things, what fuels that system? If it's not passion, what is it? Adams says the most important metric to track is your personal energy. This isn't about some mystical life force. It's about practical, physical, and mental energy. He suggests you make choices that maximize your personal energy, because that makes everything else easier. He encourages you to think of yourself not as a person full of magical emotions, but as a moist robot that can be programmed. If you want to change your outputs, your mood, your productivity, your success, you need to control your inputs. And the biggest inputs you control are diet, exercise, and sleep. He has a simple way of looking at this. He asks you to pay attention to how you feel after you eat certain foods. He noticed, for example, that when he eats simple carbs like potatoes or white rice, he feels sleepy and drained a few hours later. But when he eats vegetables, nuts, or protein, he feels energized and ready to be active. Food isn't just fuel, it's a mood-altering chemical. And if you get your diet right, you won't need willpower to exercise. You'll want to exercise because you'll have the energy for it. This is another example of a system. Instead of setting a goal to go to the gym 3 times a week, which requires willpower, you create a system of eating foods that give you energy. That energy then naturally leads you to be more active. You're using one part of the system to automate another. You're removing the need for struggle. This moist robot programming extends to our psychology too. He talks about how the simple act of smiling, even a fake smile, can trigger the feel-good chemistry in your brain and actually make you happier. The physical act can change the mental state. This brings us to one of his more controversial but fascinating ideas: affirmations. An affirmation is the practice of repeating to yourself what you want to achieve, usually by writing it down over and over. A classic example would be writing, "I, Scott Adams, will be a famous cartoonist 15 times a day." Now, Adams is quick to say he doesn't believe in magic. He doesn't think writing something down summons cosmic forces. He sees it as a tool for focus. It's a way of programming your moist robot brain to notice opportunities you might otherwise miss. When you're focused on becoming a cartoonist, you start paying more attention to comics in the newspaper. You start noticing how humor is structured. Your mind becomes a filter, constantly searching for things that are relevant to your focus. But his experiences with this were strange. Before he ever tried cartooning, he was working at a bank, feeling stuck. He made a bet with a coworker that he could beat her score on the GMAT, the business school entry exam. She was already scoring high and was taking a prep class. He was scoring mediocre and studying on his own. The odds were not in his favor. So, he decided to try affirmations. He picked a specific, ambitious score he wanted to achieve, the 94th percentile. Every day, he wrote down his affirmation and visualized opening the letter and seeing that 94 on the page. When the results came in the mail, he opened the letter. His score was exactly 94. Coincidence? Absolutely possible. But it was enough of a tease to make him try it again later, when his corporate career hit a ceiling and he decided to pursue his long-lost dream of cartooning. Every morning, before heading to his cubicle, he would write, "I, Scott Adams, will be a famous cartoonist." And, well, you know how that one turned out. But this brings us back full circle, to that moment backstage, his voice gone, his career as a highly paid public speaker hanging by a thread. He had been diagnosed with a rare neurological condition called spasmodic dysphonia. Doctors told him there was no cure. His only option was getting regular Botox injections into his throat, a creepy and unreliable process. This was the ultimate test of his philosophy. Could he fail his way to success even here? He didn't set a goal. He didn't say, "I will be cured by Christmas." He created a system. Part 1 of the system was to track everything he did, his diet, his sleep, his stress levels, on a spreadsheet, looking for a pattern that might reveal a trigger for his voice problem. No pattern emerged. Part 2 of his system was to set up a Google alert for the word spasmodic dysphonia. He turned the entire internet into his personal research assistant, waiting for luck to find him. And while he waited, trapped in a prison of silence, he used his affirmations. Every day, he would repeat to himself, "I, Scott Adams, will speak perfectly." Not as a magical incantation, but as a way to keep his focus, to keep his optimism alive, to keep his energy pointed in the right direction. He was programming his moist robot for hope. For 3.5 years, he lived as a ghost, unable to have a normal conversation. Then one day, his system paid off. A Google alert popped up. A doctor in Japan was reporting success with a new surgical procedure. That lead eventually took him to a doctor at UCLA named Dilbert, who was pioneering in experimental surgery. The procedure was risky. It involved cutting the nerves from the brain to the vocal cords and rerouting them. There was a 15% chance it wouldn't work, and might even make his voice worse, eliminating any hope of future treatments. He took the risk. After the surgery, he waited. For 3.5 months, he was completely voiceless as the nerves slowly regenerated. Then, almost to the day drive, Burke had predicted, it happened. His wife heard him speak. Just a few weak, breathy words. But it was a start. The connection was back. Today, his voice isn't just cured. He says it's more functional than it was even before the problem started. He can project in noisy rooms in a way he never could before. His affirmation, in a very practical sense, came true. He can speak perfectly. This is the essence of Scott Adams' message. Life is not about avoiding failure. It's about building a system that can withstand it. It's about seeing every failure not as an end, but as an education, a new skill, a piece of data. It's about managing your energy, your focus, and your psychology. It's about being a patient hunter, creating a situation where luck has a better chance of finding you. Success isn't a destination you arrive at. It's a system you live by. And if you build the right system, you can fail at almost everything and still win big. Commentary. When you really break it down, the message of this book is one of profound liberation. It gives you permission to be imperfect. It gives you permission to try things and fail. In a world that is obsessed with overnight success, viral hits, and flawless highlight reels on social media, Scott Adams reminds us that the path to real, sustainable success is almost always messy, winding, and filled with embarrassing failures. The most powerful idea for me, and the one I hope you take to heart, is the distinction between goals and systems. It's a subtle shift in perspective, but it changes everything. We're all taught to be goal-oriented. But this framework often locks us into a cycle of anxiety and disappointment. We're either stressed about not reaching the goal, or we reach it and feel a strange sense of emptiness. A system, on the other hand, is about the process. It's about falling in love with the daily practice, not the future prize. If your system is to learn something new every day, you win every day. If your system is to be physically active every day, you win every day. This approach replaces the anxiety of a distant goal with the quiet satisfaction of daily progress. It's a much healthier and more sustainable way to live. Another key lesson is the idea of skill stacking. You don't have to be the best in the world at one thing to be extraordinarily successful. You just have to be good enough at a few complementary things. This is incredibly empowering. It means you don't have to compete with the prodigies and the genetic freaks. You can carve your own unique path by combining your unique set of skills. What are you pretty good at? What's another skill you could add that would make your combination rare and valuable? Maybe you're good at writing, and you also understand video games. Or maybe you're good with numbers, and you're also a great public speaker. That combination is where your power lies. So, how can you start applying these ideas today? Here are a few simple actions to consider. First, take one of your big goals and reframe it as a daily or weekly system. Instead of the goal get an A in chemistry, try the system review my chemistry notes for 20 minutes every evening. The goal is an outcome you can't fully control. The system is an action you can. Second, identify one new skill that would complement what you're already good at. You don't need to become an expert. Just decide to become good enough. Maybe it's learning the basics of graphic design online, taking a public speaking class, or learning how to edit a simple video. Every new skill you add dramatically increases your odds of future success. And third, for just 1 week, try being a scientist of your own energy. Pay attention to how you feel an hour or two after you eat. Does that big lunch make you feel like taking on the world, or taking a nap? This simple act of observation, of treating your body like a system you can understand and optimize, is the first step toward gaining control over your energy and, by extension, your life. That was the summary of How to Fail at Almost Everything and Still Win Big by Scott Adams. We've certainly hit the big ideas today, but I have to be honest with you, a summary can only ever be a map. It can show you the landmarks and the general direction of the journey, but it can never replace the experience of actually walking the path yourself. The real magic of a book like this happens in the quiet moments of reading, when a particular story or a simple phrase connects with you in a way you didn't expect. This summary is designed to help you decide if this book is worth your time. If anything we've talked about today has sparked your curiosity or resonated with a challenge you're facing, I encourage you to grab a copy. Reading it isn't just about learning. It's an experience that can genuinely change the way you look at your own failures and your own potential for success. The link to the book is in the description below. Also, if you found this journey valuable, please take a moment to click that like button and subscribe to the channel. It lets us know we're on the right track and ensures you won't miss our next exploration of another life-changing book. Let's keep learning and growing together.